Aliens laughed when he dropped his pencil. Seconds later, he collapsed their gravity wells. The exchange program was supposed to be simple. A single human, chosen to visit the Pan-Galactic Academy of Higher Energies, sit through a few lectures, learn about alien sciences, and maybe show that Earthlings could play nicely with others. Marcus Green never imagined that the shiny hallways filled with multicolored lights and alien symbols would become his second home, or that one accidental mistake with a pencil would launch him into history. The Academy was the grandest institution in the Orion Arm, a towering structure orbiting a blue star. Inside, students from over 80 species studied concepts that bent minds and rewrote the limits of matter. There were towering insects whose wings vibrated formulas, silicon-based entities who hummed logic through crystal lattices, and serpentine beings that carried their equations on vibrating tongues. Marcus, however, walked in with a backpack, a notebook, and a half-broken pen he had chewed on during the flight. He was just supposed to observe, not compete. His first class was quantum flux manipulation. The instructor, a hulking creature with 6 arms and skin that shimmered like a nebula, introduced herself as Professor Zaleth. She explained that the goal of the session was to stabilize artificial gravity wells using resonance fields. Marcus was lost immediately. The equations flowed across the transparent screen, glowing symbols of alien mathematics dancing in the air. Students raised appendages, claws, and tendrils as they manipulated gravity like Play-Doh, bending small marbles around invisible curves. Marcus tried to copy notes, but the alien script wouldn't stay on his page. The symbols drifted off the lines, shimmering as if reality refused to sit still. He muttered under his breath, "This is nonsense." Then he dropped his pencil. The graphite cylinder rolled off the desk, hit the metal floor, and bounced oddly. Instead of stopping, it curved around the desk leg and floated in a tiny circle. Every alien eye turned. A silence spread as marbles, equations, and gravity fields all wobbled. The professor blinked 6 times. "Human, what did you just do?" Marcus stammered. I dropped my pencil." The pencil continued circling, locked in a stable orbit that no one else in the room had ever produced. The equations on the board flickered, adjusting themselves as if the universe recognized what Marcus had just done. A crystal student gasped, shards ringing like bells. He stabilized a singularity with no equations. Professor Zaleth leaned closer, 6 arms twitching nervously. "Impossible. Your species does not. She couldn't finish the sentence. The room erupted in murmurs. Marcus bent down and picked up the pencil. The orbit collapsed. Everything returned to normal. The professor dismissed the class early. By dinner, half the academy had heard about the human who had broken their equations. The cafeteria buzzed with gossip. Students stared at Marcus like he was some kind of anomaly in sneakers. He sat down with a tray of food that tasted like spicy rubber and tried to ignore the attention. A chitinous insectoid leaned over. "Human, your demonstration disrupted 6 centuries of stabilized flux theory." Marcus shrugged. "I literally dropped something." The insectoid hissed, wings fluttering. "You altered constants." Marcus blinked. "Constants can't be altered." The crystal across the table leaned in. "Until you did." For the next week, Marcus couldn't walk a hallway without being bombarded with questions. Professors demanded to see demonstrations. He insisted he didn't know how. They gave him chalk, pencils, even scraps of metal to drop. Every time, something strange happened. Objects spun into impossible orbits, marbles refused to fall, or entire sections of the lecture hall tilted sideways for a few seconds. He wasn't rewriting equations with math. He was rewriting them by existing. Finally, the Academy Chancellor summoned him. Chancellor Vire, a tall avian with feathers that shimmered blue and silver, regarded Marcus from behind a desk of hovering stones. "Human Marcus Green," she said, her voice like rolling thunder. "Do you realize what you have done?" Marcus gulped. "Made a fool of myself?" The Chancellor's feathers rippled. "You destabilized 6 major fields of study. Our engineers are rechecking warp drives. Our mathematicians are arguing in chaos. And yet, You may hold the key to understanding why physics obeys limits at all. Marcus scratched his head. I was just visiting. The chancellor leaned forward. Not anymore. Soon Marcus was no longer a guest. He became the subject of intense study. Professors assigned him tasks: drop an apple, throw a coin, snap his fingers. Each time laws twisted. An apple refused to hit the ground, hovering midway as though uncertain. A coin landed on its edge and began spinning endlessly. A snap caused all sound in the room to vanish for a solid minute. The aliens were baffled. They built scanners, filled laboratories, and tried to pin down what Marcus was doing. His human brain activity looked normal. His genetic structure held no surprises. But his mere actions bent the most rigid frameworks of the universe. Marcus grew tired of being a test subject, but at the same time, he couldn't ignore the excitement. For once, he wasn't just the human kid lagging behind brilliant aliens. He was ahead, way ahead. Some students adored him, others despised him. The serpentine scholars whispered that humans were dangerous anomalies. The crystalline entities, however, admired him as a prophet of new physics. Fights broke out in the library over whether Marcus was a genius or a cosmic error. Through it all, Marcus still just wanted to survive lunch without choking on purple noodles. One evening, as he sat in the observatory watching distant stars, an alarm blared through the academy. An invading fleet appeared on the scanners, hostile species demanding surrender. Professors scrambled, students panicked, defenses activated. The academy had never faced direct attack. Marcus watched the alien ships unfold in the distance, their weapons glowing. He clutched his pencil again. He thought absurdly, what if I just drop it? His heart pounded. He knew that somehow, dropping objects in his hand rewrote reality. And now, with hundreds of alien lives in danger, his mistake might become their salvation. The academy shook as the first blast from the invaders struck the outer shields, a wave of red energy bending across the protective dome. Students screamed, claws, wings, and tendrils flailing as alarms echoed in every language. Marcus stood frozen in the observatory, pencil in his sweaty hand, heart racing. He was no soldier, no physicist, just a visitor who had somehow broken the rules of the universe by accident. Yet all eyes turned to him when the shield faltered. Professor Zaleth rushed in, her 6 arms fluttering nervously. Human, you have altered constants without intention. Do it again, save us. Marcus stammered, I don't know how. I just dropped things. The Chancellor's voice cut through the panic on the intercom. Marcus Green, report to the Central Command Deck immediately. Within minutes, Marcus found himself surrounded by the highest-ranking scholars of the Academy, their forms towering, glittering, and vibrating with fear. The holographic display showed dozens of hostile warships approaching in tight formation, their weapons charged, slicing through nearby satellites like paper. They want the Academy's archives, Chancellor Angela Vire said. If they capture this station, they control knowledge spanning millennia. Our defenses may not withstand their power. The crystalline mathematician Threx leaned forward, sharp edges glowing. The human is our variable. His anomalies may disrupt their attack. Marcus raised his hands. Wait, you want me to fight a fleet? With school supplies? The Chancellor's feathers rippled, eyes piercing. You don't fight them. You bend reality around them. Do what you did in class. Marcus swallowed hard, pulled his pencil from his pocket, and stepped to the viewing window. Outside, the enemy ships glowed menacingly, missiles primed. He crouched, opened his palm, and dropped the pencil. Instantly, the void twisted. The pencil froze midair, then spun rapidly, creating a whirlpool of space-time that expanded outward. The enemy missiles curved off course, bending back toward their ships. Several detonated prematurely, blasting their own formations apart. Gasps filled the command deck. He reversed their trajectory, shouted Threx, shards ringing with awe. Marcus picked the pencil up again, his fingers trembling. That wasn't me. That was luck, another volley approached. Desperation surged. Marcus pulled a coin from his pocket, tossed it. Instead of falling, it split into 2 coins, then 4, multiplying endlessly. Each duplicate emitted a wave of distortion. The incoming lasers bent sideways, scattering harmlessly into the void. The enemy fleet wavered, their tight formation unraveling under its own chaos. The academy erupted in cheers, students dancing, wings fluttering, crystals ringing like bells. Yet Marcus stood frozen, staring at his hands. He had rewritten laws not just inside classrooms, but against real weapons of war. He wasn't bending equations. He was rewriting the framework beneath them. Days passed with tension thick as the invaders regrouped. Marcus was confined to a laboratory, surrounded by scientists desperate to understand him. They hooked him to machines, scanned every neuron, dissected every action. Still, no answers came. One insectoid theorized that humans existed slightly out of tune with universal constants, able to flex them when nudged by intent. Others claimed Marcus himself was a new constant. The debates grew violent. Marcus, meanwhile, felt the weight crushing him. He hadn't come here to be worshipped or dissected. He'd come to survive a semester abroad. Yet whispers followed him everywhere. Students bowed as he walked by. A group of crystalline scholars built a shrine to his pencil. He found it equal parts hilarious and terrifying. On the seventh day, the invaders returned, stronger, their fleet doubled. They had adapted, their shields angled to resist distortions. The academy quaked under renewed fire. Commanders turned to Marcus again. "Human, only you can save us," Chancellor Vire urged. Marcus gritted his teeth. "I'm not a weapon." The Chancellor's feathers flattened. "You are hope itself." Reluctantly, Marcus stepped onto the observation deck once more. This time, he tried something deliberate. He placed his pencil on the ground gently and whispered, "Spin." The pencil rotated. Space around it warped in spirals. Outside, enemy ships twisted, their hulls bending like taffy before snapping back violently. Two exploded instantly. The others staggered, weapons misfiring. Marcus fell to his knees, exhausted. He wasn't just altering physics, he was commanding it like clay. Alien scholars stared at him with both awe and fear. Some chanted his name as if he were divine. Others whispered of danger, of human dominance. Marcus overheard a serpentine mutter, "If this power spreads to all humans, no empire will survive." At night, unable to sleep, Marcus wandered the academy halls. He overheard conspiracies. Some professors wanted to replicate his ability by dissecting him. Others wanted to crown him as a messiah. Students split into factions, debating whether humans were anomalies or saviors. Marcus only wanted to go home. Yet deep inside, he knew he couldn't ignore what was happening. When he touched objects, constants bent. When he focused, reality obeyed. And outside the academy, entire galaxies trembled as news spread. A human student had rewritten physics with a pencil drop. Soon fleets would not just attack. They would come to conquer, to enslave, or to destroy. For the first time, Marcus realized the truth. He wasn't rewriting physics by accident anymore. He was learning to control it. And in doing so, he had made humanity the most unpredictable force the galaxy had ever seen. The Academy shook again, though this time not just from enemy weapons, but from the very fabric of space flexing beneath Marcus's fingertips. The second attack had proven that the invaders would never stop. Rumors spread that entire sectors of the galaxy now feared the word human, a species barely stepping into the stars, yet suddenly holding the power to bend reality. Marcus felt it every time he dropped a coin or tapped his pencil. The universe hesitated, waiting for him to decide how it should behave. He had gone from accidental tourist to cosmic variable in less than 2 weeks, and now the final confrontation loomed. The enemy fleet arrived in numbers that dwarfed anything seen before. Hundreds of warships, their hulls bristling with weapons, encircled the academy like predators closing in on prey. Even the professors, beings of vast intellect and pride, trembled in silence. The shields would last minutes at most. Every eye turned to Marcus. "Human," Chancellor Veer said quietly, her feathers dull with fear. "We cannot win this with equations or weapons. Only you can decide how this ends." Marcus stared out at the endless enemy lights. He thought of home, his little house, his school where nobody noticed him, the half-broken pencil chewed at the edges. He thought of how aliens had laughed when he stumbled, and how now those same aliens looked to him as their last chance. He had never wanted glory or conquest, but he could not walk away. He stepped forward, holding his pencil tightly. "All right," he whispered. "Let's try something bigger." He closed his eyes. He didn't drop it this time. He snapped it in half. The moment the graphite broke, the laws of physics rippled outward like a tidal wave. The fleet outside froze mid-movement. Lasers halted in space, missiles stopped in mid-flight, and entire battleships hovered like toys caught in glue. Marcus felt the universe pause, asking for instructions. He spoke, his voice steady. "Return to where you came from. Forget this war. Forget this academy space bent." And the enemy ships obeyed. One by one, they winked out of existence. Not destroyed, but carried back across light years, scattered harmlessly into their own systems. The galaxy fell silent. The academy gasped as if a collective weight had lifted from their chests. But Marcus wasn't finished. He looked at the broken pencil halves, still hovering in his palms. "No more invasions," he said firmly. "No more fleets destroying schools. Let the laws of physics remember this command." And the universe listened. Across sectors, weapons misfired, hostile war drives shut down, and ships prepared for conquest simply refused to ignite. The invaders' power crumbled without a shot fired. Marcus dropped the pencil halves, and they fell quietly to the floor. The command deck erupted in cheers, crystals ringing, wings fluttering, voices rising in triumph. The chancellor bowed, feathers gleaming once more. "Human Marcus Green, you have not only defended the academy, but reshaped the galaxy itself. You have written peace into the laws of reality." Professors argued that such power should be studied, replicated, controlled, but Marcus shook his head. "No, it's not about power, it's about choice. I'm just one student who didn't belong here, and maybe that's why it worked. Humans don't follow rules the way others do. We question them." Silence spread. Every species in the academy looked at him with new understanding. They had seen their equations bent, their centuries of certainty broken, by a boy with a pencil who simply refused to accept limits. And perhaps that was what humanity was. The species that asked why not when others said impossible. Weeks later, Marcus returned home. His semester abroad had officially ended, though history would never forget him. The academy rebuilt, stronger, its archives safe. Across the galaxy, whispers spread of the human who rewrote physics. Some called him a hero, others a danger, but all agreed on one thing: humanity could never again be dismissed as primitive. Sitting at his desk back on Earth, Marcus stared at a fresh pencil. It looked ordinary, unremarkable. Yet he smiled. He knew now that even the smallest action could reshape galaxies if guided by a human hand. And for the first time in his life, he didn't feel small at all. He felt like a student who had graduated not just from a class, but from the limits of the universe itself. Humanity's journey among the stars had only begun, and Marcus had given them their first lesson. The laws of physics were never laws at all, just suggestions waiting for humans to test them. Did you like today's story? Then catch our posts at 3 p.m. Eastern Time daily. Unfold more intergalactic stories with Professor Space.